So when the big guy's talking, I shut the fuck up because it's time to listen and learn. Yeah? And then at the same time, while I'm progressing, I'm 22, there's a fucking 16-year-old who's looking at me. Traditional Italian words like, don't tell anyone how much money you make, don't trust anyone, right? And I think the complete opposite. And even though I am going to get taken advantage of by some people, I don't give a fuck. Stop myself from connecting with people on a deeper level just because some guy is going to judge me or think of me different because I say how much money I made. I want to be the hockey stick. I don't want to be the fucking crypto dork. I don't care if they have 500 grand in the bank right now. Fuck them. She made 70 grand in a week or something in 2021 and she spent it all. Okay? I don't think he even has a job. He just goes hunting and he comes home and fucks his wife. This is for you, bro, if you are trying to achieve greatness long term. And maybe you don't know what that greatness is yet. Maybe you're a couple years younger than me. But you're trying to go in a similar direction to what I'm trying to go to as well. So if I've been trying for a year longer than you, or I'm a year older than you, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years older than you, then the lessons that I've learned during this period in my life will be valuable to you because maybe you'll keep them in mind and then 6 months from now when you're trying this or trying that or you're doing this, you'll think about what I said and you'll say, oh yeah, now I see what he's talking about. Or you'll recognize it faster than I did. Because learning a lesson the real hard way takes a lot longer than hearing about it and then seeing it in your life and you go, oh, okay, and it starts to come together, right? So that's why I believe this will be valuable for you, bro. Provided, which I assume that you're a guy who is just trying to achieve greatness in some regard. Maybe you don't know what that is yet, but you're on the path. Like this past 6 months was a very pivotal time in my life where a lot of things changed for me and I did a lot of things and learned a lot of things. So this video isn't just me rehashing advice that I've heard on the internet. This is things that have actually happened to me. Mindset changes that I've applied and then how they've affected my actual life. Okay, so that's why I believe this will be valuable for you. All right. Quickly, what I actually did the past 6 months, and then I'll get into the list of lessons that I learned. All right. So I left my job of 6 years, started an SMMA, went to Italy for a month. So did 2 more months of SMMA, did a lot of work for free, drove Uber, food deliveries on the side, 5 to 6 grand a month to make after tax to making $100 a week or less. Sold my car. Now, so that's a bunch of things that happened, but these are the actual lessons that I learned that I think will be valuable for any young man to hear. First was how to be broke, the skill of being broke. And I actually mean the skill because it takes a discipline to stop caring about the things that maybe you used to care about, or maybe the things that your friends still seem to care about. And it's not even a superiority thing. I don't think of, because that would just be stupid. That would be repeating the same problem. I'll explain. Because if you make it well in a job and you start getting paid well, you take pride in that. And you may allow yourself to feel a level of superiority above others, above your peers. Basically what happens is you may attach your self-worth to that because you're ahead of others. And young guys do this with many things. Like the guy, another example in the same vein, but different example is the guy who's in a long-term relationship who thinks he's going to get married in a few years might feel like he's ahead of his peers in that regard because he feels like he already has his life figured out. If they break up or when they break up, he had previously attached his self-worth to that. The fact that he was ahead of everyone else and now he's not, and now he feels shit about himself. So that's something that is a really valuable thing for anyone to go through, is whatever somewhat superficial thing that you attach your self-worth to, life has a funny way of stripping that away from you and then making you have to reevaluate your self-worth. I don't know if the goal is to attach your self-worth to nothing or if the goal is to attach your self-worth to things that are more valuable. Like, for example, for me, I attach my self-worth now to the relationships that I have and the way that I am with people, the way that I interact with people, and the value that they receive from me in person and even online. And I don't know if that's the answer, is just attaching your self-worth to something more meaningful, or if you shouldn't do that, or if the real answer is that you shouldn't attach your self-worth to anything at all. I don't know. I'll find out. That's part of the masculine game, right? Funny enough, it was easy for me to switch quite easy for me to switch into like broke mode. And I say I get that from my mom because, so we grew up, my parents were divorced and we lived with my mum most of the time, 5 kids. And she was super broke all the time. She drove this shitty Corolla that was never insured like for 5 years, right? For example. And like she was very resourceful. She found a way to, like, the dishwasher would break. Instead of paying someone to fix it, she'd push this and push that. And if you hold it up and then you chuck the thing in, it was like she'd find a way to make things work that are literally fucking broken. Yeah. And so she was resourceful. And so I was easily able to switch into that mindset of like, no, I have no money. I can't spend anything on anything. Right. And now I feel proud that I know I'm able to do that because now that I'm going back into a job, back into the workforce, when I am making money again, I'm going to still live like this. Maybe not as extreme, but I'm going to still live like this. And then I'm just going to watch my wealth grow, which is going to be beautiful. I'm very excited for that. And I'm putting that on record now so I can't bullshit myself later, which is cool. Second thing is I have a longer time frame, which is something I talked about in the last video, but now I think of, because ultimately I think a lot of us just want to achieve greatness in some regard. Yeah. And then you look at greatness, like you see someone like Andrew Tate achieves greatness. Yeah. And you don't know what you want, but you're just going in that sort of direction of like, okay, I want to be successful. I want to be as strong as possible, blah, 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 stuff like that. But when you look at him, the timeline is a very healthy timeline. He's 37, right? And he has a whole life of things that he achieved to get to where he is now, right? Naturally, we correlate the success with the timeline of how old they are, right? And then so first you see Tate, and Tate's like, it's like 18, he's broke, and then he's making more money, gets to 30, and then it shoots up, right? And it's like, cool, I'm doing that. It's like, I'll make sure I have the habits now so that I'm on the path to achieve something in that direction, right? But then you see Iman and people like that, and they're like already here at 22. And it's like, oh, what am I doing wrong? I need to move now, blah, blah, blah. And I discussed in my last video why I think that's a very toxic mentality to have, right? So yeah, I have a longer time frame. The third thing is crypto dorks. This is a big issue that I believe as a collective generation of young men that we need to be aware of, because we were coming of age during the most ridiculous crypto bull run of all time, right? Like of all time, right? And we need to be aware of this because this is what happened, okay? To start this off, I'm going to talk about a real life story that happened. This is a girl I met at the beach. She made 70 grand in a week or something in 2021, and she spent it all. Basically, I was doing a cold approach. You should not take dating advice from me. You absolutely should not. But the one thing I'm good at is cold approach at the beach. For some reason, I'm very good at that, okay? And then I start to find out that, so like a year before, she had made 70 grand in a week from crypto. And then what did she do with that 70 grand? Her and her partner at the time lived in a hotel in the Gold Coast for 3 months and spent all the money. Like they didn't work for 3 months. Like that girl is a certified retard. Yeah. So she thinks she's successful. She thinks she accomplished something. She only got lucky. All she did was she got lucky. It was the biggest bull run in history, like in history, and she just chose one at the right time and sold at the right time. After she ran out of money, she now spends all her free time looking for other ways, other business opportunities that she can use to help her make, and she only thinks of it as a good opportunity if she can make 70 grand after putting $100 in, and in a week make 70 grand, right? Which doesn't happen ever, especially not in this economy, right? So she now chases something that doesn't exist anymore because it was just a coincidence, okay? And the other thing is, what people need to realize is her success. The reason why she made money is because everyone else lost money, okay? So the time that she put in and the time that she pulled out her money or sold, someone else bought it and they lost all their money. That's why she made money, yeah? So she didn't contribute anything to society. Now, I had met her, then a year later, Tate made a video about crypto dorks. And I was like, oh, that's that chick. Now, to put this in perspective, get that girl, that example, and times it by 1,000 or times it by 100. So there were people that made 700 grand, 7 million from crypto. And they think they're smart. They think they're what success is, right? But it's all just a big game, and not even a game of skill. It's just gambling. It's just gambling, right? So be very hesitant. If you see someone rich who's young, find out why they became rich. Because if they just made money off of crypto, they did nothing. They didn't do anything, okay? A long enough time span, they won't be wealthy people. They aren't wealthy people. They spend all their money on Lamborghinis and stuff on Instagram, right? So now they go on podcasts and talk about their success habits and why they're so successful, but they're full of shit. Yeah? So that's why you gotta have a bullshit filter. Yeah? Cool. Crypto dorks. So Alex Hormozy talks about this hockey stick analogy, all right? Because the graph looks like a hockey stick, literally. It's like that's the hockey stick. You see it, you grab, that's the handle, and it's a hockey stick, right? Because the idea is that this graph, this line here, which is hockey stick, it's suffer, 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 and eventually it all comes together, and then all the success happens at once, right? That's the hockey stick. This ideology, I now live by, okay? Now, that's the hockey stick. This is the crypto dork, all right? Crypto dork is day one, he made a fuck ton of money, but he has no idea what he's doing. And he thinks that the key to success is just be lucky and make a fuck ton of money from something stupid like crypto. Yeah? And so now he spends because it's actually changed his beliefs about how the world works. Now he spends the rest of his days trying to find the next thing like crypto, the next business or investment he can make that will make him this much money and shoot him up, right? And it's impossible. Non-share, it doesn't exist, okay? So, he's just shit and he's a crypto dork. I want to be the hockey stick. I don't want to be the fucking crypto dork. I don't care if they have 100 grand in the bank right now. I don't care if they have 500 grand in the bank right now. Fuck them. The fourth thing is your work works on you more than you work on it. This is something that I heard from Alex Hormozy, but applies to my life very well. So, quick background on me, being 18, working full-time, 80 hours a week at a telecommunications company. The reason why I worked there is because 15 of my family members worked there. So I basically come from a family business background, a family business that was like a tech startup vibe. All those hours I spent, despite working till 2 a.m. sometimes, despite all these things, yeah, despite sometimes working 7 days a week, they gave me more value than what I got from them. 100%. The fact that I did that for 4 years, even though I got paid jack shit for the first 2, and I don't have any resentment for it because the value that I got from them is greater than the value that I gave them. 100%. Doesn't matter how many hours I worked. The experience that I got is 100 times more than the value that I gave. So yeah, that's a real life example of your work works on you more than you work on it. The fifth thing is in relation to that is how lucky I am. The fact that I got that opportunity, I'm super lucky. And so what's happened now is, like I said, I left did SMMA, went to Europe, realized SMMA was stupid, and then I said, okay, well, I want a job where I can get more skills, because the old job I had was like customer service stuff. I was like, I want sales skills. I want marketing skills. I was applying for sales jobs at a gym to get sales for a gym, right? I was explaining all of this to my uncle, and he says, well, would you come back to work at the company? And I was like, no, because I said, all I care about is the skills that I'm going to develop. And then he said, well, in a few months, there might be a marketing role. Would you want to do that and go into that full time? And I thought about it for a second, and I said, it'd be too stupid not to. It's the perfect answer. And then what happens is he says, look, give me 5 months. I'll get back to you. I go, no worries. 3 days later, he calls me up. He's like, yeah, are you ready to go in a week? Because we're going to start. I go, what? Like, I was serious about doing sales at a gym. Like, I was 100% going to do that. Like, I had 2 phone interviews that day, and he called me during in between them. And I said, yeah, okay, man, cool. Now, what I'm saying is that I'm super lucky, because 1 is that I worked there for 4 years and got all that experience. 2 is that now I've been given the perfect answer to my problem that I had, which was where do I work now? I want a job that will give me more skills for my long-term entrepreneurial journey. And I've been given the perfect answer. So I'm like ridiculously lucky. Now, here's the part that's somewhat valuable is I see other people who are kind of like that. Like, I see people on the internet who they're a lawyer because their father was a lawyer. They feel like they didn't earn it, even if they were working 18 hours a day. They feel like they didn't earn it, right? Now, bear with me. And the way they rationalize it is like, to me, fucking stupid. Is, yeah, I have privilege that my dad was a lawyer, but you also have privilege because you're white and you're a man. So you should check yourself just like I should check myself, which I think that's gay. I just think that's a gay way to think about it, right? The way I think about it is this. Luke 12:48. I don't know how to quote Bible verses, but this one's good, which is a part of it says, to whom much is given, much is expected. And to whom much more is given, much more is expected. The fortune that I have, the luck that I have been given, with that great fortune comes great responsibility. So I see that luck as now, instead of looking at it as a guilt, like I wouldn't be here if it weren't for this. Yeah, I wouldn't. I look at it as responsibility, as the man upstairs knows that I will make the most of this. Yeah? And it's hard to explain that to someone without sounding like you thinking you're special. Okay? Maybe I do think I'm special. You should too. Right? And so, like I said, instead of looking at it as a guilt, looking at it as a responsibility. Because I want to do great things. I've been given this. Now I'm responsible. Now I have to do great things. I have no excuse. And if you didn't have that luck, you still should have no excuse, right? Next thing is, I really love this one. I think this applies to any young man, and I think it's a very valuable lesson, which is be a good student, you'll be a good teacher. So I learned that part of the reason why I love business or stuff related to business is I actually love working with people, and I love being a student. I love having a mentor. I fucking love that. Yeah. But I also love being the teacher, right? So then I've loved being a part of a business where I'm the little guy and I just shut up and listen. And then at the same job, I've also referred 10 friends who didn't know anything about it, and then I was their teacher, right? So I just love that dynamic of the teacher and the student, right? And what happens, and this will happen to you as you get older, as you progress in anything in life, someone younger, smaller, slower, or less experienced is going to look up to you, and it's a beautiful feeling, right? But if you're a good student, you'll be a good teacher. If you know when to shut the fuck up and listen and ask questions and learn, then you'll know when it's your time to teach, yeah? So it's like this, yeah? So this is me. I look up to the big circle because it's bigger than me, right? And I learn from the big guy. And so when the big guy's talking, I shut the fuck up because it's time to listen and learn, yeah? And then at the same time, while I'm progressing, I'm 22, there's a fucking 16-year-old who's looking at me, or an 18-year-old who just started, who's looking at me like, hey bro, how do I get to where you're at? I'm like, bro, I'm trying to get here. And so is he, but he's also impressed with just my progress, right? And this goes to gym, this goes to business, even communication skills, confidence, anything. So the more, it's beautiful, bro. The more you improve, the more you'll spread the message. The more that, it's just so beautiful having those little relationships where you're the student and you're the teacher. I genuinely love being the student more because I love learning. I love learning from the guy who's done it or the guy who's doing it. Or I fucking love that. And then I love when the 16-year-old in the gym, when I get along with him and I can give him advice. I fucking love both of it, yeah? One good example of this is this song, two songs in the same album by Kanye West, Graduation. The two songs are, one is Big Brother. That one is a good example of this. And another one is Champion. It's like, did you realize you were a champion in their eyes? Listen to that and reflect. Another thing is, similar to this, is I learned what I crave. So, because I'm very social and very ambitious. So I love the feeling of me and the guy next to me sacrificing for a shared goal and dedicating ourselves to that shared goal. So in that regard, the first stages of the entrepreneurial journey are not desirable. I think the first stages of the entrepreneurial journey are not desirable for anyone because it's lonely. You're doing everything yourself. You don't have anyone to bounce ideas off. You just do and hope it works and then reassess. But you don't have anyone next to you to say, bro, what about this? What about that? Yeah? You're just doing by yourself. And yeah, you have friends who care and family. Maybe you have family who care and who you can talk about things to, but there's no one experiencing it with you. It's a beautiful feeling when you're suffering and there's a shared suffering with the guy next to you, that you're both suffering for the same goal. It's a beautiful feeling and something that I would wish upon anyone. I really would. Any ambitious young man, I would wish that feeling upon them because it's a beautiful feeling to sacrifice, to have shared sacrifice with someone else. Another way to explain that company that I was working for at the start, especially because now it's a big corporate monster, but at the start, it was like ECW. So ECW was, in the 90s, was a really small wrestling brand, okay? And they were really small and they were really edgy. They did everything different. They hated the big guy, right? The wrestlers, right? The stars of the show would be the same guys that drive vans around the country with all the merch and sell merch and do cashier jobs for the company because they were all just part of the same mission. Yeah. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's like, look, I can only talk from my one experience in one business and seeing its growth. That might be the peak feeling of business when things are working and you're all growing and you're all part of the same mission, but before all the corporate bullshit has to start. I fucking love that. Okay, the next thing is a very different topic, is nofap struggles. Yeah, now I like to say that I'm disciplined, but I can't. So I'm disciplined when there's work to get done. No matter what the work is, I will do it 100%. I can honestly say that. I go to the gym every single day. Now, I enjoy going to the gym, so it isn't a great example of discipline. I can stare at a cookie in the face that I love and not eat it, right? But I can't say I'm disciplined because nofap. Sometimes I do the thing and it's bad. I hate it. Full honesty, yeah? Like, I hate it when it's after the third day in a row. And then it's like, because then I really feel down. Because I'll go 4 days off and I'm like, cool, I went 4 days off. And then I'll do it, right? And if I just do it once after 4 days off, I don't feel that bad. Like, hormonally, I don't feel that bad. But then I'll do it again and again. And then by the third day of doing it, I do feel really shitty. And then I really need those 4 days. Yeah? So people talk about a streak. Yeah? That doesn't vibe with me. What vibes with me is like, I'm going to draw. I'm going to draw. This is the thing, right? So people say nofap and it's like a streak, as if it's binary, as if it's like I'm either not doing it or I'm doing it. And so I either feel amazing and I keep feeling amazing because I'm not doing it. And the more I don't do it, the more amazing I feel, or I'm doing it and I feel like shit, right? But really, if I do it once in a week, I don't feel that bad. I honestly don't. Yeah? So this is what happens with me is it's a wave. It's like I won't do it for 4 days. I get to here and then I'm like, I'm high energy, high test, everything. And I'm like, fuck, I can do it. Yeah, no dramas. And then I'll do it. And then because I've done it and I didn't feel bad, I'll do it again. And I keep doing it till I feel bad. And then I'll stop because I'm like, I feel really low. I feel really shit. And then I won't do it for 4 or 5 days. And then it repeats, right? And I hate this problem. I do. Yeah. And is talking about it going to fix it? I don't know. But maybe you can relate to that problem. Hopefully I figure out the answer. To be honest, I haven't watched that much content about nofap on the internet. I really haven't. So the next thing I'm going to do is watch like 10 YouTube videos on it and see what advice resonates with me. And then I'll see from there. Because it is something that I genuinely don't... It's a problem that I want to solve. But then it's hard to say I want to do it when my actions don't reflect that, right? The next thing is to incorporate art into your life. Incorporate your passions into your life. So I went down this rabbit hole of monk mode, don't have any distractions and stuff like that, right? Which is good to an extent. But things like soccer, yeah? Things like football, yeah? I ignored for 9 months, 6 months, yeah? And that actually wasn't good because inside of me, I'm genuinely passionate about the topic of football. I'm genuinely passionate about it. And ignoring that for the sake of having extra hours to do work was actually not beneficial for me. And look, my thinking was like I started to see sport as like we're all peasants being distracted with entertainment, which is somewhat true. Like if you look back thousands of years ago, the peasants would watch in the crowd while the two guys fight to the death, right? And I realized, oh, we're the peasants, right? And I was like, fuck that, I don't want to be a peasant. I want to be the king at the top that watches above everyone else, right? But then what would happen is I went to Italy and I had spent years watching this fucking team at like 1 a.m. on Monday mornings, right? I would spend years watching them. And then I went to Italy and I'm like so passionate about this team, but I haven't watched them in a year or 6 months. So I wasn't able to converse with people that I felt like I was passionate about a topic, but I hadn't been watching. So it was like actually neglecting something that I had put a lot of my life energy into. And just fully cutting that off is not realistic. So, and then realistically, if we're being real, Gary Vee's watched every New York Jets game for like 20 years. And he's worth $200 million. So is ignoring sport really the key to success? Really? The other thing was like seeing people in Italy, the way they live, they're all very passionate. Like there was my fourth cousin. He's 56 years old. He has no kids. All he does, and he's paid off his house. I don't think he even has a job. He just goes hunting and he comes home and fucks his wife. And he's happy. And it's like insane to me. And I don't think that, because people look at that and then they say, see, they're happy, we're not. They're so smart, we're not. They're not, because I'll tell you why. Because they can't even leave the house. Like, they can't move out of the house until 30 plus because they don't have enough money to do so. They can't get married young. They have to wait till they're older so they have enough money, right? So it's really not the smartest thing to do because money is freedom. It's not about the fucking... So it isn't as simple as, like, it's such a cliche, like, and it's fucking bullshit to say, oh, see, they don't care about money. They're so much happier than you, blah, blah, blah. Shut the fuck up. They literally can't even fucking... they don't have food. They don't have shelter. So it's not as simple as that. But there is... What I did learn from them was, like, they all had passions that they cared about and that they would put their energy into. Like, he had this room of all these birds that he killed. And it was like this beautiful room with all these birds, like, that were cleaned and stuffed. And it was like beautiful, amazing to see someone's passion in that regard. Where, like, in Australia, and I think a lot of other Western countries, we're not that passionate about things, about, like, stuff. And I think it's good to take a little bit of that and still make money. The last things are, good friendships. Now, I think something happens when you turn like 22. I think everyone starts to really make big decisions in their life because, like, everyone around me just shit started to happen in their life. Yeah, when no shit was happening before. Yeah. And so it's a really important time to have friends you can talk about things on a real level with, that you care about how their life is going and they care about how your life is going and your lives are actually changing. Anyways, it's something really important and really valuable to really talk with people about the decisions that you're making. Because one thing was, I wouldn't never talk about my decisions with people. I would just do stuff. Like, I'd be like, yeah, I broke up with my girlfriend of 3 years. I'm like, yeah, I did. They're like, what? Why? Like, I don't know. Before I was scared to let anyone know like how much money I was making or what decisions I was making. And I got that from my grandparents, who are somewhat traditional Italian, where it's like, don't tell anyone how much money you make, don't trust anyone, right? And I think the complete opposite. And even though I am going to get taken advantage of by some people, I don't give a fuck. How do I explain? I'm not going to stop myself from connecting with people on a deeper level just because some guy is going to judge me or think of me different because I say how much money I made. So now I feel more comfortable to talk with my friends about my decisions because I trust them. Yeah, because I've chosen to trust them. And I think that's more beautiful, to have a deeper connection with the people around you than to not and just be a lone wolf. Being a lone wolf is gay. All right, cool. So hey, yeah, have good friends and be a good friend. And if you have good friends, be thankful. And if you don't have any good friends, start being a good friend. The last thing is, I learned it's very beneficial to acknowledge people, acknowledge strangers, penetrate the social barriers. Because especially in Australia, the social norm is to never acknowledge anyone around you and just keep looking straight and not acknowledge that the person that walked right past you, right? Which is stupid and goes against our primal instinct. Like, the way Hamza says it is like friend or foe. Like, your brain wants to know if they're a friend or they're an enemy. So when you acknowledge them, you're communicating friend. And that feels beautiful. And that something like that will literally change how you feel in the whole day. Right? But then people don't, because they're scared of, because there's a social barrier and you got to penetrate it. Like, fuck the social barrier with your fucking, literally fuck it. Right? Like, break the barrier because it's worth it. So, and what happens is, it's just frame. So what happens is, people are scared to do stuff because of the frame that it's in. Because if they're scared that if I say hi to this stranger, they might think it's weird. Because that's the frame, that saying hi is weird. But if you just do it and you own it, because you were more confident, it's conviction, it's sales. Because you were more convicted that what you're doing is right, they're going to buy your frame. Because you were more convinced. So if you really, like, hi, how are you? Or something like that. Because you're so confident in what you're doing, they're not that confident in what their frame is. So they're going to buy your frame. It's sales. Anyways, that's it, bro. So this was instead of going really deep in one topic, I just sprayed a bunch of topics at you and just ran through them, just really explained a bunch of things that have happened in the past 6 months, a bunch of different lessons that I've learned about life in general. So hopefully it helped you, bro. And yeah, apart from that, thank you and have a good week, cuz. Cheers.